All right, so now we're going to go over the November new moon, November 2020. It's on the 14th of November. That's 11:08 p.m. 11:08 p.m. This is Central Standard Time Zone, so you have to adjust for your location. And we usually always pay attention to the time because this is kind of considered the hour of power. We call it the hour of power because it's a time where we get to set intentions. It's a time of prayer, a time of wishing. And if you look closely here, you see this crescent. This is the moon at 23 degrees, 18 minutes. Then you've got the sun right there, the circle with the circle in the middle, 23 degrees, 18 minutes. They're both in Scorpio. When we talk about the Scorpio energies, understanding it's like deep emotions. So for some, they would say these are, when you meet somebody that you've met for the first time and you have this deep connection with them, typically there's some sort of a soul stirring, so to speak. It's like there's this understanding, this bond, and you feel it. It's all about the feeling, but it's a deep feeling. It's at a deep layer. There's a lot of depth. So when we talk about Scorpio energy, it's stuff that's below the surface. It's hidden. Remember now, Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio energy, as is Mars. And so we hold Mars kind of responsible for the fight mentality that a Scorpio energy can have within it. But then the Pluto is the intensity of that. Pluto is the intense emotions. Pluto is the soul. Pluto is that knowledge, that wisdom, that information that's come from a long, long, long time ago from your past experiences. So for many, they would say, "Oh, well, I've learned that from childhood, or I had that experience once so long ago." And for others, it's past lifetimes. Allow your mind to, whatever sits good in your mind, however it is that rests easy with you and within your heart in that understanding. Either way, there's a knowledge, there's a knowing, there's a wisdom, and there's a connectivity to other beings, to other souls. Many folks, it is other lifetimes. And so with this new moon, this is almost this, well, without a doubt, when we talk about Scorpio energy, it's a regenerative power. That's Pluto. Think of the phoenix rising up, right? After being in the ashes and burning away in that fire, suddenly there's life. There's these wings and it takes flight. It rises out of the ashes. And that is the power of Scorpio energy. It is regenerative. It is transformative. It has the ability to wither away, burn away, to dissolve, to almost disappear, and then somehow reappear. Some associate metaphysics with the sign and kind of magical. But when we pay attention to nature, we see really simply, without all the hocus pocus and the rabbit in the hat type of stuff, we see simply how that could be, right? We come to the winter months, especially here in the Midwest. The winter comes around and the plants regress, everything shrinks down and shrivels up and basically disappears. You were to look out into the yard and these plants that were gigantic, like 3-4 feet wide, 3-4 feet in height, all of a sudden now it's November, they've shriveled up, seemingly disappearing. But then the winter comes, the snow comes, it gets covered up, everything disappears, and we can't see anything. It's as though everything went inside, right? Like everything just is laying dormant somewhere. And that is that Scorpio power. That is that resourcefulness of, okay, I know it's time to just chill, where this is not a time to be going out and doing anything. It's a time where it's like being in the chrysalis with the caterpillar. It's the same thing. It's that transformative power where change occurs. And there is this essence of the soul involved and the power of the other lifetimes, this knowledge, this depth, where we are able to then come out of that stage and rise. We come out of that stage and we fly, and we've been changed. We look different, we talk different, we act different in some way. We're wiser. And so this is that time, because it's this energetically bonded energy. There is an energetic healing in relationships, in past lifetimes of relationships. There's an energetic soul stirring that occurs here. This is a new moon prayer time, a new moon wishing time, a time of setting intentions where we're saying to the universe, this is what I want. I want to let go. I want to release. Even though it's a new moon, this is another new moon where it's like, okay, are we supposed to be releasing? Are we supposed to be bringing in? Well, we have to release before we can heal, right? We have to forgive. We have to go through a certain amount of steps before we can actually dissolve those bonds. And this new moon has the potential to do all of that. It's a forgiveness, it's a letting go, it's a releasing, and the sign of Scorpio is all about releasing. Because the opposite energy of Scorpio is Taurus energy, which is magnetic, meaning I draw it into myself, where Scorpio is at the opposite end of that, which is I'm releasing that. It has the ability, it's got this inherent quality of releasing past wrongs, of releasing whatever it was, whatever those hurts were, because this is about healing energetically. And it's also, it reminds me of a recent reading I just did, but it's also this understanding of, it's not about, it's not this forgive, forget. It is a forgiveness, but we take the knowledge of that experience and we move forward in a wiser way where we we protect ourselves, right? It's not about creating a border, where you let nobody in. It's just about being wiser. It's about choosing your circles and your friends, and seeing that you have different degrees of that. You've got a big ring that's all the way around you and there's 30, 40 people in there. And then the inner ring's got 7 people there. And then the really, really close inner ring has maybe 2 or 3 people in it, right? And so it's just being more selective in ways that work with your energy. It's not about being mean. It's not about cutting people out. It's just simply stating it's all about reciprocation and who supports me, who adds joy to my life, and understanding experiences that I've had. Do I understand what it was that I learned from those experiences? I'm going to repeat a quote that somebody put under one of the videos, a comment under one of the videos, some very wise words. I don't have any friends. I don't have any enemies. I only have teachers. When we can take that perspective, that each relationship, each encounter, each experience, we do learn something from it. It's called the school of life, right? You don't have to go to university for this. It's all about your experiences. And with this energy, this is not just your current experiences, but this is most definitely the energies from the past that have been in some way, there was a block. Because holding on to those past things, those past bonds, those past lifetimes, those past hurts, stop the growth. They stop the momentum. And this ability to release past hurts, to release past memories, and move forward in a new way, in a courageous way, to be the phoenix, to rise up out of those ashes, to rise up with the wings on fire, and to just fly and to reach new heights. When we think about it in everyday real terms, because how many people can, put their hand up and say, yes, I've seen a phoenix, right? But have you seen a eagle, right? Scorpio, when we think about it in a traditional sense, in the material 3D world, the eagle definitely is a symbol for the sign of Scorpio. It has the ability to ascend to heights that no other living being can reach. And that is the goal for this new moon. Now, you want to find out where's the Scorpio energy in your private chart, in your birth chart. Okay, if you need help figuring that out, just make sure you go ahead and comment below. I take free, quick looks. That is not a problem. The hour of power, because the moon will move. It moves within 1 hour. It's already moved half a degree, right? So we want it when they're together, because the moon, it adds fuel to, the sun adds fuel to the moon. It lights it up. right? The sun is like gasoline. It literally can add energy. It adds that power to the moon. The moon is the emotions, and the emotions are literally the fuel for intentions. They're the fuel for setting wishes. They're the fuel for your prayer. And the more clear you can be with that intention, there's many recommendations to write these things down. And I've quoted it in the past. Get the book by Jan Spiller. She has it all laid out she's got it mapped out. If you don't know a lot about astrology or you know nothing about astrology, she's got dates in there into the future, when the new moons are and when the hours of power are, when the most strongest time is to set the intentions. And it's mapped out for you, and it tells you based on the sign that it's in. It gives you the keywords to what you're wishing for, because with this knowledge, the reason that's important is we're using the power of what they're in, right? The sun is in Scorpio, the moon is in Scorpio, and therefore if your wish is in Scorpio, it's as if the universe is as if Father, God, Mother, Spirit, whatever deity is for you, Allah, it's as if you're speaking more in tune with their language at this time. They are hearing your prayers more easily, because you're literally speaking not only the same language, but you're speaking it fluently. And that goes a long way. That goes a very long way to you getting that which you desire. Now, the other part of this chart is taking a look at the blue lines and some of the red lines, right? You see them, right? They're pretty obvious. So we've got Mercury over there in the sign of Libra at 22 degrees in opposition to Mars, which is in the Arian energy. It is in a tighter opposition over here. If you see Eris, it's not really, they don't have the line drawn, but Eris is up there at 23, 43. And basically, remember, Eris is this revolutionary type of energy. It's this female fighter, kind of like a sister to Mars, but Eris is very strategic, does represent the youth in being quite rebellious, but more closely feminine energy. And feminine energy that is no longer going to just stand still. It does have some anger, remember, sister of Mars, anger, because it's tired of being overlooked. It's tired of being told to sit down, or to be quiet, that its voice doesn't count or matter. And so this Eris, if you take a look, right, the 90-degree square has constantly been angling Pluto and Jupiter and Saturn in Capricorn, right? And this is people who are in charge. This is government. This is the rules. This is traditions, okay? And so we've been experiencing a lot of that, regardless of where you live in the world. There has been, revolution and riots and revolts and protests are seen all over many countries. That is something that we will have with us for a while, okay? But when we go into December, I'll give you a sneak peek into December. Jupiter and Saturn, I know I went into this already a little bit earlier, but again, they will be leaving the sign of Capricorn in December. We're talking mid-December. They leave this sign, which means it's only Pluto that's going to be left to battle Eris, because Eris moves really slow, right? Pluto moves really slow. These two are going to be over here. They're going to go into Aquarian energy. The sun and the moon receiving an exact sextile to Jupiter at the time of your wishing. Okay, you see the degrees match? Right? They're both at 23. This will help. Okay, this will help. And what you got to remember when we look at the Capricorn energy, this is definitely because Jupiter represents truth. Okay, but Capricorn is this thing you've been working on for a long time. And to get more details, again, you find out what house number that's in for you in your life. Capricorn is the people in charge. This is business, this is government, but definitely traditions that have been around for a long period of time, and they're changing, because that's what Pluto does. It's the transformative power that's changing all of that. But Jupiter, trining that new moon wish, makes this beautiful. It's a wish about your tangible securities, because that's what Capricorn energy is. Your tangible security, your tangible world, things that you've been working towards, tangible goals, what you've been trying to achieve. So that's going to be part of your wish as well, because you have the help. Now you also see here Neptune is coming into play here, a blue line, a nice trine energy, which is strong because it's exact, 18 degrees. And it plays a part, it's trining something, like you see the words Juno. Juno is typically considered somebody who you would marry, right? Like that seventh house energy, it's partnership energy. It's more definitely of someone that you are intimately close to and physically close to. And so there is an exact trine from Neptune. So we look at Neptune as the angel rings. And I had a recent question under a video, which I want to include here because it was a wonderful question. And it was from Lou S. First of all, thank you, Lou S., for asking this great question. You always ask tons of good questions. And I just happened to be going over the comments right before recording this. If Neptune is dissolving something that's in the 3D, then we should trust it, shouldn't we? Because the 3D would be considered the matrix, right? The 3D would be considered the matrix. It's the material, tangible world. It's kind of like the illusion, right? We think that Neptune's the illusion because it's 5D. But the reality is 3D fades away. It rusts. It doesn't last. It goes away. How many times you hear people say that? I can't take it with me. No, you cannot. But what is always there? The 5D. It's there regardless. We're just, because we live in the 3D, we associate tightly with the 3D. And the challenge is to associate more closely to what is actually real, and that is the 5D. But we don't really look at it that way. We think that's backwards. That's because that's what we were taught from childhood, right? We were taught the exact reverse. But yes, trust the 5D. And that is exactly what Neptune asks you to do. It says, yes, we're moving forward and we're making changes. Trust me. Have faith. This is that. This is Neptune energy. We are one. We understand the unity within all beings and things. This is faith. This is Christ consciousness. This is 5D energy. You can't hold it in your hand. You can't see it. You can't touch it. This is faith. Okay? This is faith. This is believing. And so this, a nice trine to Juno, which is in Scorpio, which is partnerships, but it also then aids to the healing that we spoke about for the new moon energy. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we are going to go and take a peek. I want to make a few quick mentions. I want to talk about Mars real shortly here. Mars, you see, is at 15 degrees and it's not retrograding. Okay, this is on the 14th, and literally, depending upon where you live in the world, either on the 13th or the 14th of November, Mars retrograde end. Over kaput. This is good news because Mars is an intense planet as it is. It's all about your assertions, your desire, your drive. You're willing to fight and never, ever back down, and to be very physical, be very short-tempered, anxious, always wanting to be the leader, being the first. That's Martian energy. It's very masculine energy. But when it was retrograding, it was even stronger. Now that the retrograde is over, we should feel an ease somewhat in that intensity of, I need to do this right now. And the willingness for people to fight, we may find people ready to just, okay, let's maybe consider talking now. So if you've had an argument with someone, like some long-standing argument, and it got to the degree where it was like, okay, we can't even talk right now, we're so angry. Okay, well, when Mars retrograde ends, this brings up a time where you may see somebody reaching back out towards you saying, just hello. And it's kind of like somebody's little way of being able to go to the opposite side of that Aryan energy, which is Libran energy, and saying, are you busy? Right? And like maybe opening up the door, the possibility for a conversation, because again, there's Venus right there in Libra energy. So Venus being in Libra is still all about, I want to compromise, I want to talk. But with Mars's retrograde over, the ability to talk, the ability to compromise will be greater. Mercury, here's the big thing. We know that the Mercury retrograde officially ended like on the 3rd of November. However, the big thing was the retrograde zone. It's when does Mercury get back to where it began its retrograde? It began its retrograde at roughly 12 degrees of Scorpio. So you see here on this new moon date of the 14th, Mercury's at 5 degrees in Scorpio. It's when Mercury gets to 12 degrees that it's back where it began its retrograde, okay? And so this will be on the 20th of November. And I'm saying this because the significance of it is that when Mercury gets back there, that is when we will likely have more information coming forward that we didn't have before. That's when we see, this is after you've reviewed the, when you got to watch the rerun, when you got to reread the book, when you got to, hold the file in your hand and look through it, each page at a time and go through it with a fine-tooth comb. That's when there's more information revealed. And that does make sense even more when you consider the Mars retrograde is over. Venus is still in Libra, ready to talk, wanting to come together, wanting to compromise. And it's fascinating because what will happen is, immediately after Mercury reveals what we're going to see happening, is 2 days later, Venus has already moved quickly and will already be in the sign. Venus will then be at 0 degrees of Scorpio energy. And that is the time, think about this, right? You've got the sisters both in Scorpio energy at the same time. There's going to be even more revealings then. More information, more things that were under the surface and hidden, okay? Because it's Scorpio energy. The sign of Scorpio is that great detective. And the sign of Scorpio is going to have so much power at this time. When Venus enters, here's the big deal. When Venus enters Scorpio, the sun is entering Sagittarian energy, okay? And Sagittarian energy, Sagittarius is the truth, okay? One key word for Sagittarian energy, there's tons of keywords, right? But one of them is truth. It's the seeker of truth. It's the seeker of knowledge. Sagittarius energy represents wisdom, right? Jupiter is its ruler. It's all about seeing the big picture once it gets all the details, and that's what Scorpio is great at. When Venus enters on the 22nd, Venus enters Scorpio energy. At the same time, the sun enters Sagittarius energy, and then Mercury will still be here at 12, 13, 14 degrees. And so that will be very, very interesting. And I'm taking notes. I'm taking mental notes and watching the astrology, trying to learn even more. So now we're going to change the chart. We're going to move to, we have an eclipse in the month of November. Okay. And so I'm going to mention it here and I'm going to tell you where it's at. And then I'll hopefully have another video out for you guys on, say, rising signs, where I can tell each one of you specifically according to your rising sign, the location, what house the eclipse happens in for you. And here we go. So here's the details up at the top. We've got the November lunar eclipse, lunar, okay, because it's a full moon eclipse. And how do we know that? Well, we look at the details here, right? We got the moon at 8:38 in one side in Gemini, and the sun at 8:38 in its polar opposite in the sign of Sagittarius energy. Okay, so that's November 30th. All right, November 30th of 2020 in Central Standard Time Zone. And I keep giving out my time zones because I know we have listeners who try to draw these charts up for themselves according to where they live. Okay, and yeah, you have to put in the city where you're at. That gives the detail of the time zone that you're living in. To start off with Gemini energy, it's communication and thinking. It is social media. It is the news. Gemini energy is also, we can't ignore the North Node being there because we do know from the past video, and if this is your first time hearing this, you see the North Node at 1954, so we'll say 20 degrees in Gemini. We see that it's within a 2-degree orb of squaring tightly to Neptune, right? That's 90 degrees away. And we know that Gemini energy, when we apply it to the physical body, it represents the lungs, right? It's all about talking and the oxygen. It's an air sign, right? And then we see that Neptune is in Pisces. And Neptune's very powerful in Pisces. It's strengthened here because, well, it's in a water sign and Neptune rules this particular sign. It rules Pisces. And so we have the water squaring air. Okay, and so water and air, water and oxygen, water and lungs, right? We know that the pandemic we're still in it, and we know just from seeing this here, it's not surprising to hear that there will be reports of more cases, and that could include pneumonia, because they have similar, it's a lung issue, it's a breathing issue, right? So take good care. If you want me to take a quick look at your chart, I can do that, because you would want to know if you have something around these degrees. And the degrees we're looking for are the degrees in Pisces and in Gemini, but also I would see if you look to see if you have anything in Virgo, okay, because that would be a T-square, right? Because Neptune's hanging out over here. You're looking for the degrees of 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Honestly, you want to go all the way up to 23 because Neptune will be moving, especially if you live in the States. And I already showed the chart with this on the United States chart, because the United States has a 22-degree Mars in Gemini energy. So even 24 degrees then, that would mean, I should say. And that just means it's a square. That means there's testing and tension, and it'll make it more stressful. And these might be individuals who might be more prone, depending upon their health habits. Okay, they may be more prone to having difficulties at this time. And we're showing the tightness runs till roughly to the end of February, actually, roughly to the end of February. So getting to the energies for the eclipse, this is a North Node lunar eclipse. It's a full moon eclipse. So full moons, let's dissect this. We already talked about Gemini energy. Now we'll talk about what does it mean when you have a full moon. A full moon is a release because it's a culmination of our emotions, okay? Something happens, we react, and the good news is that at the time of this eclipse, Mars is no longer retrograding, which is wonderful. But we'll still we could have a tendency to have our emotions going really high because it's a full moon, and full moon, that's what happens. So you're looking in your own chart in the sign of Gemini. You're looking in Gemini actually and in Sagittarius energies. You're going for the degrees of 638 to 1038. That's the orb, 638 to 1038 of either Gemini or Sagittarius energy. All right. So a full moon, something happens, something triggers your emotions, your awareness, right? Because the full moon reflects the light of the sun. So all of a sudden there's this, I didn't know that before. And you have this new awareness, but it raises the emotions in a way where, it's like, okay, I'm done. I'm done with that. I'm done with that. And because it's in Gemini, it's a release of not just a way of thinking, because we're talking both placements. When we do eclipses, we holistically, from the people who know way more than I do, right, and the people who I study up on, their recommendation is to always look at both ends of that eclipse in its polar opposite, okay? So the point of the eclipse and the opposite, Gemini and Sagittarius energy, knowing if you have something at either end, you will be strongly affected. And so it's a way of thinking, of talking, of communicating. Yes, it could be a way of breathing, right? Because we're talking about that. It's all about social media. And this is fascinating because when eclipses occur, things definitely change. Things take a big change. And now when we talk about the Sagittarius energy, and Sag is all about your beliefs in something, but Sag is also judgments, right? It's not just truth, because we did talk about that, but it's judgments. But this is spirituality. This is religion. Here at the house, we were just talking quickly about people since the pandemic began, people having to congregate digitally, right? Like you can't go to church, or people haven't been able to go to church. I realize some are doing that, but we're talking about for the ones who haven't been able to and never in a million years ever thought that they would be online watching, right? Listening to their reverend or their pastor or their priest or whoever that may be, the clergy, and hearing the gospel or whatever that is, whatever your sacred book, your sacred text is, but doing it digitally, doing it online, right? Whether it's through Zoom, and the belief around that, like I never in a million years would have guessed we'd be doing that. And now people are having conversations, realizing that they were able to do it, that they're doing it, and especially coming upon the winter months, like, do we really want to even try to do the traditional let's go into the church thing? Because, well, is it safe? Number two, it's coming upon for where we are in the winter season. And number three, we're already doing it online, and it's so much easier. It's so much more nicer to just be in the comfort of your own home. Now, granted, not everybody's house is equipped for that. Not everybody has that, not everybody is set up where they can worship in their home. Okay. Sometimes the energies there just don't allow that. and there's just a lot of distractions, but people are realizing. So it's a change of belief. And this is a very big deal because the ninth house, which is what Sagittarius energy rules, is all about our beliefs. And so this is changing things that people, it's all part of our structures of our life, right? It's all part of tradition. And when you look at the next energy, that Capricorn energy, and Pluto transforming this sign of Capricorn, which is all about our material traditions, but what else, right? Your physical world, but the beliefs that go along with those material traditions. And that would be these long-standing structures, whether it's businesses or churches, right? Government. Pluto will be here for 4 more years, transforming that. And so this eclipse here, it's a moving forward eclipse because it's the north node in Gemini. So it's a new way of thinking, a new way of communicating, a new way of talking, of speaking, of relating. Okay, this is also sales, a new way of doing sales. It's networking. It's the scribe, right? It's the one who's keeping track of the information. Remember, Mercury rules this. So when you want to better understand what the meaning is, just go to the ruler, go to the Lord, as they say, of this sign, and that's Mercury. And then that fills in a whole bunch of details for you as to what the possibilities could be. And depending upon who you are and what house your Gemini energy sits in, that tells you the where in your life, the where you're changing the way you relate. Now remember, this is also neighbors and siblings, people that are close to you. So for kids, this could be like schoolmates. Even if you're an adult going to school, this would be people in school, and this can also be coworker energy because it's people who are in your day-to-day routines. It's very similar to the Virgo energy in that way. Again, same ruler, Mercury, right? So there's a lot of similarities. The hands are a big deal here as well. The hands, doing things with the hands, being very crafty, talking with the hands. And isn't that what you do? Like if you're blogging, right? You're in front of the camera, and what do they tell you? Like, yeah, you kind of want to have some hand action going on because it keeps the screen lively. If you're just sitting there talking, it makes it more animated. It makes it more interesting for people to stay engaged. And so Gemini energy, the North Node, this is an eclipse where changes will occur, and seeing if you have something at either end will tell you to the degree of the intensity of this for you. If you have a planet that matches those degrees, it'll be a bigger deal for you. Again, comment below if you want me to take a quick look. It is for free. Now, at the time of this eclipse, again, this is the 30th. This is the end of November. So what does that mean? That means that we've already got Saturn at 28 degrees down here. You see this? We'll pull this up a little bit. Saturn's at 28 degrees in Capricorn. Now remember, the 29 degree mark is a critical degree. Saturn was here once before, and when Saturn was here once before, the lockdowns began. Okay? It happened like clockwork where we are. I'm in Illinois, and it happened like clockwork here for us. Now I know that didn't happen like clockwork for everybody because not all the states in the U.S. followed this. There was a little delayed in some places. But this is not going to be identical because back then, Jupiter was in a different spot. Pluto was in a different spot. Pluto was closer to Saturn at that time. Okay. Pluto's far away from Saturn at this time. It's like 6 degrees away. It is different. And Jupiter will literally be with Saturn. It's only 2 degrees away. So when Saturn gets to that 29 degree mark, Jupiter will be with it. And so it will be different. It will be different. Now, we're going to see what that means because Saturn represents rules and Jupiter can expand things. So it could be more rules. It could be. And looking at the astrology of it and knowing that there's this square with the North Node and the Neptune, do I think it's going to be a total lockdown? I don't. I don't think it's going to be a total and a complete shutdown. I don't. Because what's happened is we know a lot more now than we did the last time we started a lockdown. There's a lot new ways that we know how to operate within a group safely. Things we were not doing before the lockdown. And I think if anything, there may be enforcements of those because a lot of people have those rules and they're not being enforced. So there may be additional enforcements of those. I mean, free will is a very real thing in astrology. And so to tell you straight out, like, yeah, this is without a doubt what this means, I can only share with you the potentials of the energy. Okay, I can only share the potentials of it. I know I mentioned before something about Saturn and Jupiter being together going into Aquarius and that happening in December, and me thinking that them being together and definitely entering Aquarius together, there could be definitely some beneficial rules for society, beneficial information coming through that will help the group. And so that could look different ways, right? Whether that means stimulus money, whether that means somebody saying, hey, we think we have a vaccine. I know that the Aquarian energy does represent the scientist. This is science. And who is looking to get the vaccine, right? It is the scientists working behind. They're the ones doing this. They're the ones running towards that goal. And so with Saturn and Jupiter here, Saturn will be here for 2.5 years. Okay, but Jupiter will only be here for a year. And so without a doubt, we're going to have, I mean, I'm just telling you by the astrology, I think Jupiter is going to do well here when it hits Aquarius. And I think there's definitely going to be some benefits for the group. I really do. And so this map, this seeing Mercury here, see this 27 degrees, Mercury and water, it's sextiling Saturn at this time. And that's information. Okay, that's information from Saturn. And it's a sextile, which means it's something good. It's something beneficial. And it's even more tightly sextiling Jupiter. You see that? Yeah, more tightly sextiling Jupiter. Okay. And so for this eclipse, we can't ignore Venus, which is fascinating as all get out. Days before the eclipse, or maybe it's a week before the eclipse, Venus will be at an exact opposition to Uranus. Now remember, Venus in the sign of Scorpio, Venus rules Taurus, first of all. So there's a lot of high-level mutual conversations going on. Venus is having a good conversation with Uranus in Taurus energy, okay? And Venus is about, in the Scorpio energy, it's my values in our values. And Uranus is in my values, okay? And Uranus, remember, Uranus is the scientist. It is advancements for humanity. It is devices and technology. It's that Nikola Tesla energy. Venus is my income and my money. And so if Venus is at the opposite of Uranus at that time, there could be some information that comes through and it might bring relief, right? That would make sense considering Venus and Mercury are still in Scorpio and Mercury is sextiling Jupiter and Saturn. So this looks good to me. I'm excited about this. I love being able to have a reading, a chart to look at, and to share great information. And so we move forward in this together. We move forward with understanding we've got Neptune still giving angel wings to that Juno energy. And you see Venus is going to truck along here, right? Here she's at 11. And what's Neptune at? 18. Right? And they're both in water, which means it won't be long into December. Matter of fact, it's the first week of December when Venus receives an exact trine from Neptune. Remember, angel wings. This is that guardian angel. This is Neptune. This is faith. This is together we shall rise.